We are talking about navigating tourism and hospitality marketing during COVID-19. First, my name is April Yao. I'm the Account Services Director in New York. I've been at Major Tom for about 7 years, just had my 7-year anniversary last week. I helped launch the Chinese marketing division, and I'm a growth marketer by trade with expertise in tourism, fashion, and education. Some of the fun facts about me: I actually used to be in pharmacy in Australia. There is a misalignment in values and much more holistic health, so I moved back to Vancouver and kind of fell into digital marketing. Some other fun facts about myself: I lived in 3 countries. I've traveled to 35 plus. My partner is a travel advisor, so travel is very, very close to me and has hit my network very hard over these past few months. And lastly, although I'm very scared of the open water, I decided to conquer my fears and learn how to sail a Pico. So those are, big accomplishments that I've kind of encountered over my lifetime. At the bottom here is just some kind of quick logos of various clients that we've worked with. Some of them are smaller kind of boutique hotels. Some of them are larger. We've worked with everything from hotels, tour operators, OTAs, etc. So yeah, as I mentioned, travel is a big part of my life, not only professionally, but also personally as well. So this is just a brief agenda of all the things I'm going to be covering today. I'm first going to go into industry insights, focusing majority on the online behavior. I'll then talk about a recovery plan. I'll go step by step. There's 3 phases here. And then I'll move into what brands are currently doing and some good creative examples that I've seen, summarized with 5 key takeaways. And then I'll pass it over to Chris to take on our Q&A. As he mentioned, if you do have any questions, which I'm sure will come up, please put them in the chat and we can kind of moderate them at the very end. All right, so first thing, as many source markets across the world, countrywide lockdown, many hospitality and retail venues, of course, are closed. Frequent travelers are currently at home, and the good thing is that they really look forward to travel again once restrictions have been lifted. The really exciting thing is that there definitely needs to be a travel industry to return to once everything does open up. And evidence have shown that travelers are still searching, booking holidays for later on in the year, highlighting the need to marketing not to pause. Because I think it's really natural for everyone to go into austerity measures and focus on trimming all the budget and all that. But it's really important to continue marketing even during this time. And we'll talk about different ways that you can do that, not necessarily from a paid perspective, but to ensure that you have that balance of being online and present while still being sensitive to the current landscape of the industry. So let's take a look at what's happening online. As you can see from this graph here, and there's quite a number of kind of things going on. You'll see that this is the 0%. So this is where we started back in January. As things started to happen subsequently over the next few weeks and months, you'll notice that the search trends continue to drop and drop. What is good here, though, is that we are noticing that global trends are plateauing. So you can see here at the end of March and into April, it starts to flatline. What this means is that we kind of got over that initial frantic, nervousness, anxiety, and we're starting to kind of level out and kind of getting used to this new normal here. On the right-hand side, you'll notice that the hotel stay lead time has started to increase. So looking at domestic travel, it's starting to increase here. You can see that from 0 to 2 months is quite low, but people who are searching specifically in North America for 9 months and further has started to increase. Internationally as well, I think this shows that people are very hopeful in regards to what they could possibly do in the future. This is what I call the dreamers, the people that are so anxious and eager to travel once restrictions are lifted, and these again are your frequent travelers. I think people, based on all of this that we're seeing, that domestic hotels and interregional travel will start to increase, and they'll be one of the first ones to rebound, especially in the US and Canada, because as understandably, people don't want to travel on flights, but more so within RVs or cars, and just having more control over their overall travel space. This graph here looks at the online behavior in regards to hotel searches and leisure destinations. So what we're noticing, and the prediction here, is that you're going to get an increase in terms of the kind of upscale and luxury class. And there's a couple of reasons for this. One, the luxury consumers are usually the ones that are going to want to travel sooner. one. And then two, people are going to be utilizing their hotel space much differently than they used to. So previously, people may have just been, getting hotel rooms maybe at the kind of entry level rate because it's just a place for them to sleep and, hang out and then go off and explore. But now with the change in social distancing and just the various regulations, they're going to want more space. So maybe they'll look at, higher scale rooms to have more of that kind of living room area. People are still looking for beach destinations and for the great outdoors. So this is another market that we think is going to rebound a lot quicker. The likelihood of people coming to your destination, if you are in the outdoors, let's say the Colorado ski area, is looking a lot higher than it is if you're in, a very dense city. I'm now going to move on to the social media behavior. So the reason why this is important is that it's important to understand the psychographics of your audience. The Facebook conversation is showing a variety of changes during COVID and how that's going to impact the travel industry. And understanding the psychographics is really important for your messaging because then you can understand and anticipate your audience needs. I'll go one by one through each of the different sections here. So looking at the first part, this is a new focus. The pandemic has changed the conversation about traditional travel destinations, both in Asia and Europe. Once called out for the tourist attractions, Spain and Italy are now being talked about how it's been hit hard by the pandemic. Venice has also made its way into very popular conversations because now its waters are more clear and there's less traffic on the gondolas. And it's also helped to bump up the conversation about feel-good news, like the story about dolphins reappearing in the city. This is what I call the dreamers of travel. So the consumers are still continuing to dream about their favorite travel destinations. Even with lockdown in place, people are still dreaming about when they'll be able to take that vacation that they had to postpone. We saw a large volume of conversation on traditional touristic cities like Honolulu and Buenos Aires. Of the people with travel plans, 39% will delay future travel, 31% are still considering canceling due to COVID, while 21% have already canceled. Now, just keep in mind that this was back in middle of April, and of course, a month is almost like a year in this kind of scenario right now, so things, of course, have very quickly changed. We've also seen topics like the giraffe emerging. After Twiga, a baby giraffe was born in the Santa Barbara Zoo. People were saddened when the two rare all-white giraffes were found killed in Kenya. There's also a large appetite for travel-themed topics. And this is great because this is a way that brands can help consumers plan and reschedule their next trips for showing flexibility and providing consumers with online experiences to their products to help them keep dreaming. So the dreamers of travel is really where you want to focus on because they still have that optimistic outlook and are waiting for things to open up again. The third part, adapting to the new reality. Monuments and points of interest have adapted to the new reality to provide access to those who can't visit in person, or they're supporting the reaction to the pandemic. So for example, the Great Pyramid of Giza and the Met are closed for the in-person visitation. However, several of them are highlighting a way for them to visit online. Is increasing their accessibility, still providing that value and cultivating community. And looking at the last part here, without being able to travel, people are creating unique experiences for at home. Homemade travel experiences with the restriction of not being able to leave their houses, they're looking for leisure activities that they can entertain themselves with. This is a great way, again, for you to provide value and create community within your current client base, but also prospect to find new people. International and regional cuisines have been on people's minds. You'll notice that there is a spurt in Uber Eats, coffee houses, and then also crawfish and Thai food. It's been interesting to understand the things that people are taking upon themselves. I'm surprised actually that sourdough or baking's not in here because I've really seen the increase in the need for people to find baking geese for some reason. But that's been a new kind of hobby that a lot of people have taken on. Also, a big thing to point out is staying active when you are at home. So Zumba classes, as you can see, has had a massive surge. And it's been really interesting to see everyone kind of go on Instagram and show the in-home exercises to showcase how they're still keeping fit and sane during this pandemic. A little later in the presentation, I'll show you how all the brands are using this information to showcase and shape the content that they're putting out. All right, so moving on to the recovery plan and the three-phase process. So the part one is the crisis phase. I would say we are near the tail end of it right now, but the key channels to focus on is your website, your social media, your SEO, and your local content. Then moving into the recovery phase, your key channels would be website, social media, paid media, SEO, and email. And the last phase, which I'm hoping that we'll get to in the next few months, will be under the growth. And the key channels there to focus on are paid media, social media, website, and SEO. And for those who are unfamiliar, SEO means search engine optimization, which essentially is the online presence of your website when people are searching for specific keywords and your website shows up in the Google search results. So looking specifically into the crisis phase, the key channels, again, website, social media, SEO, and local content. The first thing to really ensure that you're doing, and if you haven't already, I would strongly suggest for you to do this, is to add COVID-related content. This is both on website and social media, which includes your FAQs, your policies. This is a great time to leverage banners and pop-ups. Number two, also vital for this, ensure your local listings like your Google My Business and maps are updated. So for example, maybe you're a restaurant and you're closed, but now you're open for takeout or delivery, a great thing to highlight. Conducting a website search detailed assessment. Big thing here is understanding your page speed and usability. I'll have an example a little bit later on, but essentially this is no time to just sit and wait to see what happens. This is a great time for you to kind of look at those things that maybe previously it was too busy for you to focus on, and looking at how fast your website loads, because we all know that if you are waiting on your phone for more than 3 seconds for a website to load, you're probably going to bounce and go somewhere else. So really key part is your page speed. Gathering website analytics to identify appropriate target audiences. It is more than likely that your audiences have changed, especially if your key markets have been severely impacted. So let's say New York, for example, was a key market of yours. That probably isn't going to be a key market for a little while. So it's important to look at your website analytics data to see how your audience has changed. Within Google Analytics, you can see things like what your interests are for their specific audience, what they're in market for, what age group, what geography. There's a lot of different things that you can really dig into within your Google Analytics. And this is a great time for you to kind of relook at that and take a look at your segments. This is also an amazing time to clean your database and segment your email lists. So kind of segmenting them into your local market, your drive markets, as in, regional, national, and international. Why this is important is to move on to the next section, which is the recovery phase. But this is a really good time to look at all your data and ensure that you have that cleanliness there. And lastly, while you may not be in market for paid media, this is a great time for you to create a media plan with ad spend by channel so that when you're leading up to the reopening, you have a plan in place and you're not behind. Moving into the recovery phase, the key channels here are your website, social media, paid media, SEO, and email. This is a really good time for you to optimize your mobile experience with AMP. If you're unfamiliar with AMP, essentially it's when you're searching on Google and you click on an article, and you'll notice that the beginning of the URL, it doesn't actually have the domain. It'll say google.com/AMP, which essentially is just a quicker way for your website to pull the key information, and so that it loads a lot quicker onto your phone. Again, page speed is one of the most important things here, because as people are more and more on their screens, they're going to have less patience, because there's just going to be dividing their attention amongst all the different things that is happening out there. The other thing is to make sure that you're using superior call to actions. So instead of, book right now or book now, for example, I have an example here, book now, stay later, really ensuring that you have that flexibility built into all of your messaging. Number two, update your COVID messaging on your website with an open date if you do have that in mind, or if you do have that date set out. This is a great time to implement banners and pop-ups with the reopening messaging and date. This is also a good time to reinvent and redefine your room service offerings. Now that people will be spending more time in your rooms and potentially in the amenities, how does that change and shape their experience? So really communicating that is important. Developing local offers for local and drive market audiences. For example, free parking, laundry. I was on another webinar, and one of the hotels there had mentioned that they are known to be like an art-centric hotel. So they are partnering up with museums so that when people do book with them, they get a free pass to the museum that's in their local area. So this is a really great way to form partnerships within your kind of local community here. And of course, posting reopening content on social media channels is really important. And then email blasts. So again, this is where your segmentation is really important. Make sure you segment and target the appropriate people who would be interested or that are maybe not in your in the markets that are severely impacted. Use really creative opening creative and messaging, and then also reactivate your branded paid search and remarketing. So for those unfamiliar, branded paid search is when you are targeting keywords that include your brand name. So for example, if you're genre hotels, a branded key search would be genre hotels information or genre hotels opening date. And remarketing, for those unfamiliar, remarketing is when you remarket to people who have previously been on your site. As people in the travel space, I'm sure you've been on a hotel site before, and then you leave, and then all of a sudden you see that ad kind of stalk you around the internet, no matter where you are, whether it's shoes or hotels. So that's what remarketing is. And then lastly, going into the third phase, which is growth. This is the one that we're most excited about. The key channels here is paid media, social media, website, and search engine optimization. This is a great time for you to scale up Google Display. Google Display are the banner ads that you see. Update creative with reopening messaging. Based on case studies and kind of market research that we've seen, exterior photos have shown the highest click-through rate, so 55% in comparison to interior photos or amenities. Other things to keep in mind as well is to make sure you don't show large groups, maybe showing a couple or a single person. Scale non-branded and in-market paid search. So non-branded is anything that doesn't include your brand name. In-market means essentially Google buckets every single person into an in-market section. So if I'm searching on the internet for, let's say, flights, if I do that enough, Google puts me in the in-market segment of travel. So I'm in market to search for travel. Other things could be in market for jobs, in market for restaurants, in market for education. And again, look at your Google Analytics to see this audience info. It's extremely important because your first party data is gold. No one has that but you. These are people that are literally on your website. So this is the best way to have an indication of how your audience is shifting and moving. Third, scale your social media ads with a reopening message and date. Again, use regional or drive market imagery. That's going to be the most impactful. Make sure that your targeting is specific to the regions that matter. And again, use your rooms and exteriors as your main source of imagery versus larger groups. This is also a time to expand your dining menu and make it really easy to order in room. We're expecting, depending on how regulations and everything happens in the future, restaurants may only be able to have a 50% occupancy rate. So people are going to want to dine more within the room so that they have more control over their environment. With that, of course, ensure that your in-room entertainment is available and very easy to use. And lastly, when you do get into the growth phase, market holiday and 2021 bookings. I know a lot of travel contacts of mine have started to make bookings for next year, which is really promising. It is no surprise that everyone is just itching to get out, because even if you're able to take walks, it doesn't replace the experiences that you can have through travel. Some of the common call to actions that we've seen work really well are things like start planning and explore X location. Again, I would stay away from book now and things that are driving immediate sales. You really want to make sure that you're not being really salesy, because people are searching right now. They're doing a ton of research. And so while they may not be purchasing, they are definitely researching, and kind of keeping you top of mind is the most important thing. So moving on to this next section here, what are brands doing and what's working right now? This is one of my favorite parts, because this is when I can show all the various things that brands are doing that we've been loving. First, these are the 5 areas to focus on. So number 1, empathetic messaging. Look at all of your communications and really show that you care. No one wants to be sold to right now. You know, I think actually if you do have that really strong sales focus, it creates a negative type of perception of your brand, because you're not showing empathy to the current situation of the healthline workers and all that. But I'll show an example that kind of has both of those things in mind. Second, COVID-19 updates. So what changes have happened to your business and how are you communicating that? Number 3, website and accessibility audits. So previously what I mentioned, you know, what is your paid speed and how is your paid speed? Are there things that you can work on in the back end that are going to make your business much more efficient when you do get up and running again? Number 4, be adaptive. Are there new offerings that you can consider? I have a really great example of a travel brand that I love that has really diversified into a new market that they hadn't previously gone into before. And 5, my favorite part is get creative. This is an amazing time to flex those creativity skills, provide value, and create community. There's some incredible examples I'm really excited to share of just brands that I've come across that have really put a smile on my face. So first, empathetic messaging. Sharing is caring. So 3 examples here. The Shed Aquarium in Chicago, you'll notice that they've updated their Twitter profile to show that it's sparking compassion, curiosity, and conservation for the aquatic animal world, temporarily closed to minimize the spread of COVID-19. So while this is something that, of course, we all know, it's just showcasing that they really care. This is also a pinned tweet that I hope you've seen. If you haven't, please look it up. It shows the penguins that they've let loose to go around the aquarium, and it's just one of those feel-good things. And again, creating that community. You'll notice that we had a huge surge in followers, now having over 100 that sign, and they had previously sent out this email communication about how it has really affected the Jamaican community. So while they are not showcasing any of their food or anything like that, it just really shows that they care about their community and how they're helping. And then lastly, in the hotel space, Marriott has been really good and on top of all of their messaging. So I believe this was the third email that I received from Marriott, and I just included the snapshot at the very bottom here. So essentially, it's showcasing their efforts to help frontline workers and how they have partnered with their hotel owners and franchisee partners to launch a community caregiver program. So it just shows their initiative and why it's important for them to stay relevant and for them to also support those who are in need. They also mentioned that there's discounted rates, and then I didn't include the entire email, but it goes into into a lot of specifics as to what they're doing for the community, for their guests, and how they're taking care of their staff. So this is a really great way to have that balance between being visible and online and still top of mind, but still having that empathy behind it. Number 2 was the COVID-19 updates. This doesn't have to be this massive big undertaking. It can be as simple as updating your hero image. So I'm showcasing the destination BC, me being from Vancouver originally, very full of nature and all that. This is one of my favorite websites to look at whenever I'm getting tired of the cityscape and needing to escape into the nature. They have put it front and center of what you need to know about what's happening right now within COVID and some of their tourism destinations and the travel ideas. So I thought this is really easy and a kind of soft, not soft, but very direct, but yet still soften their approach in their language. Fairmont, as soon as you go onto their website, this pops up. It tells you right away exactly what's happening. It shows that they care. It also gives you like the hashtags and the things to use so that you can still be a part of the community. And then also a quick follow-ups on social networks. Again, this is a really easy way to be updating your audience for COVID-19, but also having a soft sell to create your community. This is another example of COVID-19 updates within the local community here within Santa Monica. Campo has done an exceptional job at marketing to their current audience. So Campo, if you're unfamiliar, there is actually one in New York as well. They are a meat company. They are butchers, but they also have a restaurant. And so you'll see here, this is what I mean by local content, to make sure that all of this is updated. So as people go to Google Maps and they search things, they want to know that, oh, okay, so Campo, Santa Monica, all 3 locations are closed, but they do have takeout and they have no contact delivery. So this is really important because people want to make sure that, hey, if I'm going to go and pick up from you, am I going to have to, like, what kind of measures are you going to be taking to make sure that I'm safe? And then also lastly here, as people are searching, so I did a branded search, I searched Campo, and this ad came up. So making sure that they communicate everything within this ad. You notice here that they utilize all of their ad extensions. Ad extensions are these extra bits of information below here and here to kind of give more information to your users. So you'll notice that they updated it to say pickup or delivery available. They talk about who they are and why they're important. There's no, purchase now. It's all about learning more. So that's another kind of soft call to action that they're using. They also talk about why they stand out from the crowd. So pasture raised, certified organic, the 3 different locations, and then of course their site links here. This just helps to increase the real estate that you have online. As everyone knows, real estate within the online space is so valuable because there's so much other things that are happening around here. So when you are using your paid search ads, whether within Google or Microsoft ads, ensuring that you are taking advantage of all the various ad extensions. All right, so the third part is website and accessibility audits. So how is your website looking? I mentioned that page speed is really important. I think I did see someone from Fairmount on here, so I apologize. I don't mean to pick on you in any way, but I put your main website through the Google Page Speed Insights tool. So you can see here from the desktop perspective, you're faring pretty well. You know, you're at 75% out of 100, so you're in the yellow. There is room for improvement, but it is moderate. And then when we look at mobile, which we've seen a huge surge in mobile traffic over all of our clients' website, whether you're in travel or e-commerce or anything, because of that kind of researching phase and browsing, you'll notice that you're at a 26 out of 100. So there's a ton of room for improvement here. Within the PageSpeed Insights, Google does spit out a bunch of recommendations, and generally we work with our partners to go through each one of those and talk with their developers and working in conjunction with them to prioritize the top things that are going to increase your page speed. I should also mention that this type of stuff is really good to do now because generally there are not a lot of quick fixes. So it does take, I would say, 3 to 6 weeks in terms of getting all this stuff fixed. So again, this is a really great time to look at these areas. All right, so be adaptive. So this is one of my favorite brands in the travel space. I loved how Abercrombie & Kent, who has historically been known for more exotic destinations and villas and all that, they have diversified into the national parks. So they previously have never done this before, and now they're showcasing how you can travel within the continental US and really showcasing their expertise in this area. I was so thrilled and impressed by their speed of their kind of adaptations. So this is just showcasing what one of their pages looks like. Now you'll notice that within North America, they'll have the national parks in the west section. And then within that, you can click in and see all the different areas that you can look at. So this is a great way and a great example of how brands can take a look at their audience and take a look at the industry trends, what's happening in the market, and then finding new areas and new audiences to market to. All right, get creative. So this is one of my favorite parts of the presentation. This is where we get to showcase what brands are doing in that creative space and really flexing the creativity. Smart Flyer is an agency based out of New York. Well, the headquarters in New York, but they're all over the world. And they've done a phenomenal job at cultivating community and still working with their travel partners and making sure that their audience feels seen and heard. I love what they've been doing. They've been launching podcasts. They've been doing, virtual Cinco de Mayo parties. You can see on the right-hand side here. They also provided a recipe for various types of dishes and cocktails. And they're doing a ton of Instagram lives with various partners. On the left-hand side, you'll see here that there's an Instagram live, I think that happened earlier today, that is bringing in people of expertise in various parts of the world to talk about, what they love most, which is travel. This is a great way, again, to showcase your value, remain top of mind, and cultivate that community aspect. This is another one that I loved, and beyond. As someone who has never been on safari, it's at the top of my bucket list. I was so thrilled when And Beyond and Sangeeta also did this as well. So they have adapted and gotten very creative how they can showcase their safaris without people actually going in safari. So And Beyond has Wild Watch Live, which comes in 2 parts. They have Instagram Live, YouTube, and Facebook. So you can see on their website, it tells you exactly what's happening. It's very easy to understand where you can click on, when to find them, what it's all about. I also included a snapshot here on the right-hand side of one of their Instagram lives. So my partner and I actually put this directly onto our TV one night and turned off all the lights, and it felt like we were on a real safari. As someone who's never been on a safari, this got me even more excited for the times that I could finally get on this. So again, this is another great way to show that value, cultivate that interest, and get people excited about when they can travel, and also just show what their experience is all about. So I'm not sure if everyone who has been on their Instagram had known about them before, but definitely people do now. And looking into the food space, Time Out is obviously a very popular type of blog that people use in New York and in surrounding areas, and they changed their time out to time in. What I loved about them is they're showcasing their and providing value to their users by first talking about it not being time out, but time in and being couch bound instead of out and about in the city. all of New York straight to your apartment. They've been providing recipes of how to create their favorite foods within the home. So Shake Shack, you can create a Shake Shack burger at home. They give you a full recipe of how to make it and a breakdown. And then same thing with Junior's Cheesecake, two very New York-centric restaurants. And so I thought this was just a great way to, again, be top of mind and still have some fun with it. I wasn't able to showcase all the email or all their website copy or anything, but it was a really cool read, and I was really excited to create the Shake Shack burger at home. I just think that with the surge in people cooking at home and having more control over what they want or what they make, they're still desiring those things that they would have in normal life, right? So the Shake Shack burger or Starbucks, let's say, or whatever dishes that they love. I've also been loving a lot of the chefs and the chefs within the hotel chains. They're having Instagram lives or, Facebook lives or YouTubes or, anything to create that engagement, but they showcase how they make the recipes. I've also seen some great content from travel advisors who have also done the same thing. So again, a really great way to kind of showcase that. And then lastly, Ace Hotel. So this is one that I thought was really great in using empathetic messaging, but also having a soft sell. So their subject line was something for now, something for the future. So for now, they were showing a recipe on Instagram and how people, they shared this recipe on Instagram and everyone loved it. So they wanted to make sure that everyone got it in their emails. So they talked about this recipe. Below here, there is that recipe there. And then for the future, they are offering gift cards, which are now available for up to 20% off, never expires. So again, they're showcasing that kind of flexibility, but also showing that they're caring about you now, and then also the future travel and what to expect there. The important thing is that if you are soft selling like this, to make sure that you really explicitly say what their terms and conditions are. And then also here, you'll notice that they are also donating 25% of the proceeds towards the fund. All right, so just to summarize that, the 5 key takeaways again were empathetic messaging, make sure you look at all your communications and show that you care. COVID-19 updates, what changes have happened to your business and how are you communicating them? 3, website accessibility audit, how is your page speed? Can people find your website? What else can you do on your website that you previously were too busy for? 4, be adapted. Are there new offerings that you can consider? Are there new audiences that you can consider? And 5, be creative. Flex that creativity, utilize the social media skills that you have. If you don't have them, I actually have something a little bit later on that would maybe benefit you, but this is a great time to provide value and create community. Just this last bit here, if you find any that's helpful, feel free to email me. I can provide you with the recovery checklist for marketing that I went over. If you're pretty new to social media, whether you're a novice or intermediate, or you feel like you're an expert, I recently attended the Instagram for Business seminar that happened a couple of weeks ago. So I'm able to share the Instagram for Business COVID-19 playbook in addition to Instagram stories. These are great suggestions as to how you can utilize the space and be creative in that. And then if you would like, I'm happy to offer a 30-minute consultation because I know there's a ton to go over today and your business is probably very unique. So I'm happy to have a conversation for you if you would find that to be valuable. Whew, that was a lot to cover. All right, so passing it back over to you, Chris, for the Q&A.
Awesome, April. Guys, let's give it a virtual round of applause. That was phenomenal. I know not everyone can hear the round of applause, but we're feeling this. So, incredible content, value, especially attention to detail, and you covered so much. So with that, I'm going to open this up for everyone who's on this webinar. And again, so much value. So let's make sure that everyone gets a chance to connect. So first off, let's have Jason Baker. I know you have one of the questions here. Do you mind sharing your question to the audience?
Yeah, sure, Chris. So I was just wanting to know if anyone has seen an upward trend in email subscriptions or removal of social subscriptions from their businesses.
Yes, absolutely. So if you are anything like me where you have subscribed to a lot of newsletters, some of them that you may have even forgotten before, I found that in the very beginning when all this was happening, when people were sending 2 to 3 emails a week, it notified me or reminded me that I was subscribed to something that I didn't maybe find relevant anymore. So I would unsubscribe. And we're seeing a huge, in the beginning anyways, big unsubscription rate. But then with that said, as you cultivate more value and create community and ask for those emails to get newsletters, signups, and things like that, as long as you're providing benefit to your consumers, we have seen a surge in subscriptions as well, because we're finding that email is one of the most effective channels for most of our clients.
Cool. Very cool. Thank you, Jason, for sharing, and April for answering. All right, so we're going down the list here. So, and again, if anyone has questions, there's no bad question. Type it in the message and we'll make sure we'll get to you. Duffy Lucas, just share, if you can share your question, that would be great. Duffy, are you still on? You press
I'm still here.
Okay, perfect.
I actually didn't have a question. I think I was responding to yours, Chris's.
Oh, that's right. You did, regarding the in-room dining. The question I had was, as you mentioned, April, that 50% decrease as far as restaurants, potentially what changes will be done to, add to the value of, make up the cost. And he mentioned be creative in in-room dining options such as candlelit dinners for 2 packages with wine, private balcony dining setups, family night options with game for kids. You're right. There's so much to add in value, right? I'd imagine.
Absolutely. And again, that time to be creative and be adaptive. Take a look at what you can offer your guests and how you can best communicate that. Again, I think the surge in the higher level rooms that have that capability to have the dining room table and that experience, we'll see a big surge there.
Awesome.
Also, things that I've seen within other restaurant partners are offering kind of drink discounts or more packaged kind of deals. So for example, offering flights of wine or specialty cocktails or things like that, anything to, I would say, satisfy people's needs after all the pent up time at home, let's say.
Yeah, that's so true. Very cool. All right, I'm going to hand this over to Mackenzie. Mackenzie, are you still on?
I am still on, yes.
Mackenzie, do you mind asking the question that you had and just information around that?
Yeah, sure. So my question was, you had mentioned that we want to try to, going forward, we want to try to see, or we want to be empathetic, and we want to not come off as sounding too much like a salesperson or trying to push product onto people. But for those of us that are in the retail travel sector, one of our biggest concerns going forward is that we need to have income and revenue coming in immediately. And I think that a lot of agencies are in the same boat, where the longer that we go without any revenue, the less likely it is that some agencies will continue on. So what would you suggest as being like a key takeaway to how to market ourselves in a way that we can reach our goals as far as getting revenue in quickly, but without sounding like a used car salesman just pushing when people don't want to hear it?
Absolutely. So if there's any way to secure future income, so I mentioned there was an example of, potentially offering discounts in the future, or, package deals that are very flexible. I don't know if that's an option for you to work with your partners to have something like that. But that is a good way to kind of secure future revenue, but positioning it in a way to your audience and your clients that it is of benefit to them. Not that you're trying to sell them. It's like, hey, I have this really exclusive deal with one of my trusted partners. I don't know if you're interested, but this could be something really cool for your family, because I know you've been wanting, or I know that you had to cancel your trip to blah, but this could be a good second option. And so it's just really important of how you frame it to your clients, because there are definitely going to be those clients that want to book now and fly later, as long as they have that flexibility within their terms.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you.
Very cool. Thanks, April. Thank you both. Carrie, you're next. Do you want to share the question you had regarding restaurants and cleanliness?
So yesterday I can you guys see, you can hear me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yesterday I go out and I do pick up, and I haven't gone out very often, but I went out to go pick up dinner and also something else at another restaurant. And I found, which kind of made me uncomfortable, was that, some of the restaurants, they make you go inside to go pick up your food. And of course, some have it where they come out and give it to you in your car.
Mm-hmm.
But going into the two restaurants yesterday to pick up my food, I felt uncomfortable because, you have to open up the door to walk in. And I make sure I look at the door just to make sure if it's clean and wiped down. And these two places were not, and they're very well-known places. So I was wondering if there is is there a plan for restaurants now? Because, they're open more than hotels are, et cetera. But I just found that going out was so uncomfortable yesterday because I didn't find myself to be safe.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't sure if there's a plan for that segment of where we go.
Yeah, actually, I think Eric just messaged in here. The National Restaurant Association has provided guidance on that. And I think that it's a challenging thing to kind of govern because everyone's kind of doing it as they think as best they can or as they think that they should.
Right.
But the hope is that everyone will get on the same page. I hear you on that. When you do order from a restaurant, the last thing you want to do is go into the restaurant. Most that I've seen, there's usually somebody out front, almost like a bouncer to a nightclub.
Right.
And and they ask you for your name or they ask you for your order number. They place it on the table and they go inside so that you can go to the table. So I've seen varying degrees, but I would say if you are finding that with a lot of restaurants, so let them know that, because I think they'd be very happy and appreciative to receive the feedback.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that.
April, I have a question actually in regards to, you mentioned empathy and get creative. There's a lot of things we can post, whether it's, special, food options, but in regards to corporate social responsibility, do you feel that companies should make that a highlight as far as messaging, causes, social good, as far as giving back? What does that look like as far as a company, and how should they message that is in creating a brand identity for their company?
Mm-hmm. So I think similar to what we saw at that Miss Lily's example that I shared, you want to find a social cause that, one, you're passionate about, and two, that's relevant to your business, because then it can kind of look like you're just jumping on the boat of, hey, we're on the COVID thing too, and we want to give to someone because everyone else is giving to somebody. You want to find something that's going to be very relevant for your audience and impactful for them. In terms of how to communicate that, the best advice I can give, and it's going to sound very cliche, but it's to be authentic, is to really connect with your users, with your audience, with your community, and be truthful in how you're feeling. I've seen a lot of advertisements or even social media posts that it's saying, it's okay not to be okay, and showing that they care and the various kind of stages that you go through, because essentially everyone's going through collective grieving right now, right? And people are at different stages. So it's really calling that out. And as a company, if you do want to have that social impact arm, which I think is a great time to have that if you don't already, is to share that with your community in a way that makes sense. I think it varies by industry and also brand by brand as well.
That's great. That's good information. I know everyone has something they want to share, but our time is somewhat limited. April, this was amazing. We really feel we've got so much value out of this. And I know you mentioned you have your email, you got this presentation kit that you could send out to our audience. So we will also send that out to everyone that's on this call. Yeah. And this is as an FYI, we do have these hospitality mastermind webinars Wednesdays and Fridays from 10 to 2 p.m. Pacific time. Every other week, these speakers are phenomenal. There's some great interaction, and we really do appreciate everyone coming on this call. And April, again, so much value, such a great job. We're singing your praises over here.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, and I hope that you found that helpful.
It was so good.
Yeah.
So good.
Nice person I ever met.